superior fluoride toothpaste.
I think fluoride is a poison.
Top 10 most important public health successes.
Fluoride is a toxic chemical. In large doses, it's a rat poison.
They don't use it in Germany, Norway, and Sweden.
Of course, it causes your bones to deteriorate.
People I really like laugh at that out loud. Like, that's an insane position.
Children of today have 1/3 the number of cavities that children had 12 years ago.
So what of fluoride in the drinking water?
Water is water, right? Well, yes and no. You see, this water that I got out of my tap here at my home in Germany has something missing from it that's pretty standard in other parts of the world. There's no fluoride in it. Fluoride is an essential mineral for our oral health, which is why you commonly see it in toothpaste and mouthwash and in special treatments at the dentist. You can even find it added to salt here in Germany. It helps us prevent cavities and tooth decay, which is why fluoride has been added to most municipal water supplies in the United States. In fact, around 63% of Americans drink fluoridated water, but concerns exist about its safety. And whether or not we should be adding fluoride to the public water supply has fueled both conspiracy theories and scholarly debate for a long time. Right here in Europe, only a handful of nations still continue to add fluoride to their water supply. Many have discontinued it altogether, and some never added it in there to begin with. And one of those people who believes that fluoride should no longer be a part of American public drinking water is currently nominated to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. You see, there's a growing group of people who look at the water here in Germany and ask, if they aren't doing it, why are we? And is it safe or toxic? Well, the actual science is evolving on this, and I think it's time we took a look. So, let's get started. Cheers. Now, although you might be most familiar with fluoride from your mouthwash or your toothpaste, the truth is it is a naturally occurring mineral that comes in all sorts of things. Many foods like raisins, potatoes, green and black tea, as well as spinach are great sources of it, and fluoride is also naturally occurring in water sources around the globe. Like any other essential vitamin or mineral, fluoride plays a significant role in our health. Every day, your enamel, the protective outer layer of your tooth, gains and loses minerals. You lose minerals when acids formed from bacteria, plaque, and sugars in your mouth attack your enamel. So it is important that you gain those minerals, like fluoride, calcium, and phosphate, back by consuming food or water that contains them. For most of human history, striking this balance used to be a big issue, and is why tooth decay was extraordinarily common. So we came up with some interesting ideas on how to prevent it, some more successful than others. But at the turn of the 20th century, scientists in Colorado started to notice a correlation with a condition they called Rocky Mountain mottled teeth. This mysterious staining of the teeth, which was first described by dentist Dr. Friedrich Mackay in Colorado in 1901, was eventually found to be the result of an overabundance of naturally occurring fluoride in the water supply. Today, we call this mostly harmless teeth staining condition dental fluorosis. And although this is less than cosmetically appealing, the communities affected by it experienced much lower rates of tooth decay. So a few decades and numerous studies later, scientists went out and tried to find the sweet spot, putting enough fluoride in the water to give us those great benefits by reducing tooth decay, but not too much where it would cause adverse effects. The very first pilot study to see if this could actually work was carried out in January of 1945 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, becoming the first town in the world to be artificially fluoridated. 6 years later, surveys indicated that decay levels in 6-year-old children, those born since the fluoridation commenced, in Grand Rapids was almost half that of Muskegon, the control city which had similar decay levels previously. So in July 1951, city officials in Muskegon decided to fluoridate their water supply too. Fast forward to today, and approximately 63% of all municipal water supplies are fluoridated in the United States. And while those municipalities are free to set their own limits, the CDC officially recommends 0.7 milligrams per liter in drinking water, as that is the concentration which maximizes fluoride's oral health benefits while minimizing potential harms, and most cities do hover around this amount. The World Health Organization recommends limiting fluoride in drinking water to 1.5 milligrams per liter, which is also the upper limit for fluoride in drinking water for several other countries such as Canada, China, India, Australia, and the European Union. Across the globe, some 40 countries have artificial fluoridation schemes for their public water drinking supply. Although it's worth mentioning that in a lot of cases, it's not countrywide, but just targeted at a specific small portion of the population. But from the US to Singapore, the Republic of Ireland to Australia, in many nations across the globe, if you turn on the tap water, odds are fluoride was added to it. In fact, fluoridated water has been championed by the Center for Disease Control as one of the 10 most important public health advances of the 20th century. But not everyone is singing its praises so loudly. Scientists today, concerned about the dosage of fluoride in the water supply, have become increasingly concerned about fluoride toxicity and the effects that has on the developing brain, both in utero and in early childhood. The first study, published in 1989, examined the IQ levels of children in different villages in China and found that those in high fluoride regions had lower IQ scores. Since then, numerous studies have been carried out examining the effects of fluoride and IQ, many of them in China, since fluoride is a naturally occurring substance in groundwater, and exposures to the chemical are increased in some parts of the country, even though many of the studies on children in China differed in many ways or were incomplete. A meta-analysis of the results by researchers at Harvard concluded that fluoride seems to fit in with lead, mercury, and other poisons that cause chemical brain drain, as the average loss in IQ was approximately equivalent to 7 IQ points. A follow-up meta-analysis published in 2023 did substantiate the Harvard study, finding adverse effects of fluoride exposure on children's IQ, starting even at low levels of exposure. But the results, while certainly compelling, are not definitive. And the role of fluoride in the water supply largely leaves the scientific world divided. For starters, the major role of residual compounding could not be ruled out, like the role at which the age of exposure or the age of IQ testing impacts the results. You see, part of the difficulty of the science on fluoride is that when it comes to studying the dangers and concerns, there's really never been a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study, the gold standard in science for proving causation. All of the studies are largely observational and not definitively conclusive. It's important to remember that fluoride is no different than any other vitamin or mineral. And like they say in toxicology, the dose makes the poison. So just like you need calcium or water to survive and live a healthy life, a little never hurt anybody.
Well, hello, rain never hurt anybody.
Yeah, but a lot can kill you.
But just to give some context here, for a dose of fluoride to be considered toxic, my toddler would have to consume 2.5 of these specially formulated children's toothpaste tubes for there to be considered a PTD, or probably toxic dose, which would require medical attention. Now, I don't think that does not mean that we shouldn't have more research. I think the Environmental Protection Agency should be doing everything they can to ensure that fluoride is safe in the drinking water if we continue to use it in government-mandated community health strategies. But I think we need to be highly skeptical and critical of conspiracy theories which seem to confuse correlation with causation, especially when they don't back up those claims with peer-reviewed scientific literature. Even if those conspiracy theorists were somehow gifted the secretaryship for the Department of Health and Human Services. But before I get too far into the video, I want to give a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I recently hit 100,000 subscribers on my channel, which is a huge milestone, and I am still both shocked and humbled to have such a huge community here on YouTube. But I work independently on these videos, from pre-production research to script writing, filming, editing, thumbnail design. I'm a one-woman show, but I am by no means an expert filmmaker. When I started YouTubing, I didn't know a thing about making online content. I had to teach myself how to use the camera and the software to upload videos and share with you. Now, I would like to think that my videos have gotten a little more refined over the years, and one of the best tools that I found to help develop my skills is Skillshare. In fact, I recently took this Secrets to Growing a Successful YouTube Channel course to learn more about how YouTube is changing in 2025 and how I can get better at thumbnail design and marketing so my videos reach a greater target audience. But the learning opportunities don't stop there. Thanks to Skillshare, I have unlimited access to an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills. So if you're interested in learning something new, Skillshare is the perfect place to start. From photography and illustration to graphic design, freelancing, music theory, and creative writing, you can find classes that'll match your goals and interests. And since Skillshare is a platform that is designed by creatives for creatives, classes are taught by industry experts excited to share their tools, techniques, and professional journeys with members. So if you're ready to learn a new skill, definitely head over to Skillshare by clicking the first link down below in the description of this video. The first 500 people to use my link will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. So get started today. But beyond conspiracy theories and misinformation, I think the reason why concern over fluoride has become so pervasive and widespread in the United States is likely due to the fact that a lot of other Western European countries have either never introduced it into their water supply or stopped doing it altogether. And this does give some legitimacy, I think, to the question of whether or not we still should be fluoridating the water. You see, around the same time that the US began adding fluoride to its water supply, many countries in Western Europe followed suit. The first fluoridation installation in Europe was started in Norrköping in Sweden and S𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧 in West Germany in 1952, and slowly spread from there. By mid-1962, about 1 million Europeans in 18 communities in 11 countries were receiving fluoridated water. But beyond a couple of nations, which I'll talk about here in just a minute, fluoridation of the local water supply was largely carried out in just localized conditions and was relatively short-lived. For example, public water fluoridation never really spread in West Germany, past S𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧, and they actually discontinued the practice altogether in 1971. And in the former GDR in the late 1980s, about 20% of the population, around 3.4 million people, living in towns like Karl-Marx-Stadt, now Chemnitz, Zittau, and Spremberg, were drinking artificially fluoridated water. But this too was discontinued after reunification. Similar stories of isolated, localized fluoridation starting and stopping can be found in the Czech Republic, Finland, Hungary, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. But notably, many countries never fluoridated their water supply. Countries like France or Italy, for example. Today, Ireland and the UK are the only countries in Europe currently adding fluoride to water at a whole population level. Some regions in Spain are fluoridated, but only around 11% of the population drinks it. None of the other 25 EU member states add fluoride to water currently. But why don't they do it? Well, the reasons, interestingly, actually vary quite a bit. Back in the 1960s, one researcher noted that a lot of the Europeans simply felt that the American investigation into fluoride in public drinking water was due to the habits of American life and nutrition, and so it really didn't apply to European habits. Europe wanted to carry out its own investigations and looking at particular conditions in different countries to figure out what worked best for them. Plus, it's also worth pointing out that at the same time that a lot of these countries were carrying out their own investigations, fluoride started to become widely available in oral hygiene products like toothpaste and mouthwash. So because citizens could just simply get their fluoride through those means, it just really wasn't seen necessary anymore to continue investigating this and putting it into the water supply. There was also a stronger feeling in many European countries that collective community-based public water fluoridation was an encroachment on the human right of decision-making autonomy. So instead, many countries decided just to start adding it to milk, salt, bread, or administering it in tablets and letting individuals decide if they wanted to supplement their diet. And you can still find many of these products on the shelves today. And like I mentioned, there's actually no fluoride in my public drinking water here in Germany. And I mean that seriously. I even went as far as to hunt down the water testing results of my local municipality to see how much naturally occurring fluoride there is in my drinking water. And as it turns out, there's little to none. So instead, physicians and dentists where I live tend to lean pretty heavily into recommending oral hygiene products with fluoride in them. But I was also offered a topical fluoride treatment for my children at their last dentist appointment too. And so a lot of people who advocate for the US to stop adding fluoride to the water supply will look at Germany, Italy, the Netherlands and say, hey, look, tooth decay rates have precipitously declined in all Western countries, irrespective of whether the country ever fluoridated its water. But I do think it's wrong to look everywhere in the world and assume that tooth decay is the same problem with the same solution everywhere across the globe. The relationship between tooth decay and sugar consumption per capita is important. The relationship between tooth decay and the number of dentists per capita is important. The relationship between tooth decay and the level of care is important, even when you're comparing high-income countries.
Well, since you've been frozen, there have been fabulous advances in the field of dentistry.
What do you mean?
Nothing. Oh, look, here's Basil.
And it's a major reason why, despite the stereotype held by many Americans that the English have bad teeth.
Okay, I get it. I have bad teeth.
Americans are far, far worse. According to the OECD, 28% of adults in England have tooth decay. Compare that to a jaw-dropping 92% of adults in the United States with tooth decay. And remember, they're also adding fluoride to the water in the United Kingdom. The difference all likely comes down to the fact that in the United Kingdom, they have universal health care, with the NHS paying for all clinically necessary treatment and even subsidizing many non-necessary treatments. It is worth mentioning that currently there is a study underway examining water fluoridation's benefits at the University of North Carolina. This is actually a really interesting study that aims to illustrate whether or not fluoridating water, in addition to using the traditional oral hygiene products, makes a difference in early childhood tooth decay at a community level. Basically, this could be the first step in having a really substantial argument for removing fluoride from the public water supply in the United States and instead shifting the strategy to doing like what they do here in Germany, which is relying more so on topical oral hygiene products. This is my own opinion, but I think we far too easily and far too often forget just how absolutely terrible life was prior to modern medicine and public health initiatives. In the first decades of the 20th century, American dentists regularly made full sets of dentures for teenagers so that they would look presentable at graduation. My own grandfather, who grew up on well water, had a full set of dentures by the time he was 24. Now, has the use of fluoride in oral hygiene products changed dramatically since then? Yes, absolutely. But still today, in 2025, about half of all American children do not receive regular dental care because of social, economic, and geographic obstacles. And about 1 in 3 US preschoolers living in poverty have some form of early childhood tooth decay. My children here in Germany don't drink fluoride in their water. But we have access to universal health care, which guarantees them 2 dental visits per year free of charge with fluoride treatments. And we are also incredibly fortunate to live in a part of the world where we have easy access to fluoride and oral hygiene products and give them a diet that promotes healthy teeth. But that isn't a universal experience. And again, this is my opinion, but I think especially in the United States, a country that continues to fall short of providing citizens with access to affordable, universal health care, where, again, everyone has access to a dentist, I don't think you can afford to take away community health-based measures. It feels like you're kind of just taking away the guardrails without making sure that the safety mechanisms are in place first. But again, this is just my opinion, and I'm sure you probably have a lot of your own, and you're gonna let me know of those down in the comment section of this video. So I think this is a good point to wrap up this discussion, and just let me know what you think about having fluoride in the water, whether you live right here in Europe or back in the United States. As always, I love to hear from you, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more of it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and to get more content from Type Ashton, hit that subscribe button. So, I'll see you next Sunday. Cheers!